My name is Brian, and I'm from Sunny International Business Society. And today we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Nicholas O, to share information about his pathway in establishing Spargo Eats and the trends and future insights of the health food industry. Mr. Nicholas, could you please introduce yourself and your career path?
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm Nicholas, the co-founder and CEO of Loop Foods and Spargo Eats. A little bit more about my career. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I started my first internet startup when I was 19. I launched a sneaker e-commerce reselling platform, and I exited that probably about 4 years back. Yeah, and the trajectory of my career right now would be very much into food. While working food business, I've realized that food is very broken in a sense that how we are feeding ourselves is very what I mean by food is very broken is that if you look at it from a perspective of a human health as well as an environmental or even a climate perspective, how we are feeding ourselves, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why it got me very, very passionate about it. And I will share more about like what are the problems and solutions that we're solving with both Spartans and
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. We found that you had started up Sneaker X Lifestyles in 2015 and you achieved GMV 5 million in 3 years. And what made you change your path and commit as a marketing executive at Spargo Mills?
Okay. So essentially, like I said, when I first started my first startup, I would say the whole internet was very, very new. What I mean by that, e-commerce was a very new concept. So I actually went over to Australia, and I was actually very keen on the concept of sneakers and all this stuff. And what got me very interested was that if you didn't know, sneakers have a high reselling value. And thankfully, I had the opportunity to get these sneakers, these really expensive sneakers at retail prices. And so what I did was to just launch a website to start selling. So to my surprise, the sales was really very great. So that kind of gave me the idea whereby I don't need a shop. I can just sell via the internet. So that was the beginning of or the genesis of my career. So why did I make the move is because if you look at it, in every 10 years, from 1997, the financial crisis, to your early 2000s, the dot-com bubble, and in year 2008, the mortgage crisis. And when I was actually in the later stage of my startup, I realized that if an economy crisis happens, I believe the first thing everyone will forego is a 2,000 ringgit pair of shoes. And thankfully, someone was offering me a great price. That's why I exited the business. And why I moved over to food was because I was helping my family business. And then basically we started selling all these things. And then I came about a concept whereby in right now, the food delivery market is 30 billion. In the next 5 years, it'll be 365 billion. So that got me really very interested. And that's when I started dabbling into food. So what we did was we actually started selling spices. The concept didn't work. So we then did a virtual brand and we started selling. And that's how we actually started. And while we were operating a food business, we realized that food itself or the F&B industry is a very monolithic industry, whereby it has not changed for the last 100 years. So that's why we believe tech will be able to enable, and we believe food will be very different in the future. What I mean by that is not food or what we eat, it's how we eat it, whereby you could be, dining in, getting it delivered to your doorstep, picking up, entirely up to you. So that's what we're trying to build, that whole picture to actually meet you wherever you are.
Oh, that's amazing, Mr. Nicholas. Okay, you mentioned that you lead Loop Food and Spargo Eats. Can you please tell us how you manage to multitask positions that you hold that all require huge attention?
Okay, so essentially, what we are trying to achieve would be both a platform as well as a brand. So if you look at it, we're actually doing very similar things. It's just different execution. So what I mean by that is from a Spargo's level, which is the brand level, we just need to create the menu and we need to acquire customers. Similarly, on Loop, when we launch the platform, we do need to acquire customers. But what allows us to acquire customers is that we have our own food brands. So that's why there will not be a lot of complication. They are very similar operations. What I would say is just different execution from the front end.
I see. Sparkle is always our case that they are involved in every steps of the supply chain and even make the food in store from scratch every day. What drives you to implement this business model, Mr. Nicholas?
Okay, so like I said earlier, I think food is very broken. What I mean by that is if you look at it, throughout this whole COVID-19, what we believe it was a wake-up call. If you recall, when COVID just first hit, there was I would say a shortage of food supplies. The reason why we actually had that is because Malaysia is a very interesting country. We have a lot of land. We actually grow a lot of things. But if you didn't know, all the top grade producers that we have export it out. What in Malaysia we eat is what we consider grade B and grade Cs. And the most legendary thing, in my opinion, is why are we importing things from China? So, and then that got me thinking, so how do we, play a part into making things more sustainable? We realized that on the flip side, farmers are also facing a lot of troubles. If you recall, they had to throw all their produces away because there wasn't anyone that was able to deliver. And for us, we thought that was a very ridiculous problem. So what we did during the MCO, and it was to go directly from the farmers and source directly from them. Second of all, we don't just source directly from the farmers, we actually also rescue their grade B and grade Cs. So whenever we launch or whatever that we do, we always implement or we believe in this value of win-win-win, whereby we create solutions whereby the customer wins, the community wins, and also the company wins. So in this particular scenario, when we source directly from the farmers, we cut out the middleman, we actually lower our food costing. And in return, the farmer actually gets paid more. And it's a win-win for us and for the end consumer. They get really good food and really high at really affordable prices. So that's why we figured, we have to do something about how we source and how we feed ourselves. That's why we source directly from the farmers. And our first concept was a healthy food. And if you look at our menu, it is not your very typical healthy food whereby, they taste like, they are just like lightly seasoned with salt and pepper, or in other words, rabbit food. What we did was, we asked ourselves, how are we going to serve something that is healthy and affordable and tasty? And we came up with the concept of a grain bowl. In other words, it's just atas chafan. So that's how we get a lot of customers, and yeah, that's part of more or less the journey at this point of time.
That's a really smart move. Can you please share with us what drives Spargo is to lay a great emphasis on the food quality that is going to be served on the table?
I see. So, I mean, essentially, the way we look at ourselves is, we're actually in the business of feeding people. And it is very important, as a restaurant to actually focus on the food. However, we've realized that most F&B players choose to acquire customers differently. What I mean by that is, they have really nice atmosphere, ambience, and everything. But for us, we decided to forego that. We just focus very heavily on the food. And that's how we feel that it makes sense because, yeah, like I said just now, people actually just eat the food. Why do we focus on being green? I think it's a duty of everybody. If you look at it, we only have one Earth. If we don't actually protect it, I think it'll be a very interesting journey for humanity.
All right. So it's the end of the interview for part 1. In part 2, we'll be discussing the trends and future insights of the health food industry. Stay tuned for part 2, everyone.
Okay. Okay, welcome back to the part 2 of our interview. In this part, we will be discussing trends and future insights of the health food industry. Ever since the outbreak of COVID-19, businesses have faced major challenges in the way they operate. Can you please tell us how Spargo is survived throughout the pandemic, and as the cases are rising nowadays, what are the strategies that have worked best in promoting the meals to your target market?
I mean, for us, actually, the reason why we even started was because of the pandemic. We believe there was a different model for F&B for the future, whereby it's a delivery-first focus. So therefore, frankly, for us, I think COVID-19 was a blessing in disguise. It actually helped us out a lot because we have always been delivery first. So I would say we have actually grown a lot during this pandemic. And yeah, what I mean, I wouldn't say we're thankful for it, but we definitely did make the most out of this pandemic. Yeah. And may I also ask, like, what was the second part of the question?
What are the strategies that have worked best in promoting the meals to your target market?
I see. Okay, so essentially, like I said, we're delivery first, so we are only, or most of our brands are actually only present online. So therefore, social media has obviously been the biggest traffic. And namely, I would say different channels for our B2B side of the business. LinkedIn has helped a lot. Maybe direct to consumer, your Instagram and your Facebook. I would say all in all, social media has been that savior of our business in that sense.
Oh, I see. Being the co-founder of Look Foods, what's your plan to promote healthy eating habits to people all around the world, especially Malaysians who are used to eating food that contains lots of spices?
So I mean, I think eating healthy is quite a fact whereby everyone understands, but I believe there are multiple frictions that causes people to not choose to eat healthy. I think number one, everyone, or it's quite prevalent that healthy food is expensive. Second of all, I think the taste of healthy food doesn't beat your greasy burgers and stuff like that. And I think thirdly would be the accessibility. So I would imagine definitely people are always choosing to eat healthier. I would say our roles as F&B or even food companies is to actually reduce that friction. So for us, what we do is when we first started, we actually rethink what we were looking to serve. So we actually realized there was only two types of food: food that was actually fast, unhealthy, and cheap, or on the other flip side, food that was expensive, healthy, and slow. And we were just trying to reimagine, how do we feed, or we were trying to reimagine how do we feed people in the future, and that's how we came across, the concept of Spargo. Basically, what we're trying to do is to serve really healthy, affordable meals, so that everyone can actually enjoy these meals. So that's why we start our prices probably at 16.90. Again, we understand that it's not going to be affordable for everyone, but our goal is to drive down the price to make it affordable for everyone. And that's just more or less our strategy at this point of time.
I see. All right. So these days, there are more and more health food restaurants, such as a Green, entering the market. So what are your thoughts about this competition?
Frankly, we're excited for it. Why? Because it proves that there's a demand for it. And second of all, we truly believe that life is not a zero-sum game, whereby when there's a competitor, it will take from us. I mean, we believe in the abundance mindset. So how we look at it is more competitors is better. It actually pushes us to become even better. And for us, we don't actually look at our competitors or even focus on them. We are more focused on the customers. So that kind of validates that we're in the right space, serving the right food and the right concept. And yeah, that's how we look at it. And we actually would love more healthy competition among more brands. That kind of actually helps the industry, or that segment, that healthy segment. It kind of makes it to the masses, hopefully.
Right. As people have growing concern on their health, and Spargo Eats and Look Food are businesses about healthy food, this means that the business is going to have a great space to grow. Could you please give us an insight into these expansion plans of Spargo Eats and Look Foods in 3 to 5 years?
Um, I would say to a certain extent I do agree with what you said, that in the sense that we're in the healthy food space, and definitely there'll be a lot of room to grow. But I think throughout running the organization, what we've realized is that I think in food many people want to eat healthy, but what their number one concern is price. And I don't think at this point of time the price will be able to be affordable for everybody, just because of I think many factors like currently the supply chain disruptions, uh, loss of I would say food while traveling, so on and so forth. So I think in Malaysia specifically, it will take some time, because we all grew up eating our nasi lemaks, and these are staple to us. I think that what we are trying to do is not to tell you, hey, eat healthy food only. It's how do we understand a system in transitioning. Probably, the general market starts at 7 days a week. It's non-healthy food. How do we incorporate one day? That's our goal, rather than telling you, hey, eat healthy, unhealthy is not good. Because we're nobody to judge. We're just trying to assist you.
Okay. Being the co-founder and CEO of Spargo Eats and Look Foods, do you have any advice to students who wish to start a business in an industry that is still at the introduction stage in regional markets?
I mean, from my point of view, I think before you want to start something, you got to know why. And once you find your why, I would suggest, or I believe, you should then understand what is the purpose of you solving that problem. So you find your why first. What's your purpose? And then you've got to be very passionate about solving this problem, because from my personal experience, I think entrepreneurship is not an easy road, because it may look like a very high life from the front, but I would say for my organization, we are always just trying to solve problems, rectify issues. So if you're doing it for the money, I suggest you can look at a different career path. But I believe if you want to go down this journey of entrepreneurship, you really have to be passionate about solving the problem, or else you will lose your drive, because some days you don't get paid, you just have to struggle it. And yeah, so I don't think it's for everybody, but I would suggest, if you have the eagerness to try it, do try it, and at a younger age, so that you have the ability to fail and launch another one and try again.
So it always starts with a why, right?
Yes, it is, because if you don't know why you're doing something, you will never do it long enough.
True.
Because most likely, I would believe the most straightforward reason why you're doing something is because it's a monetary reward. But if you know why you're doing it, that passion will drive you as far as you can. And I guess that's where life will take you. And maybe a last word of advice would be, personally, I live by this. I shoot for the stars. Worst case, I land on the moon. Yeah. I rather, regret failing rather than regret not even trying.
True.
And yeah, that's just my opinion of that.
That's a good advice. All right. So it's the end of our interview today. On behalf of Summer International Business Society, we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing this valuable knowledge and experience with us. We're sure that every one of us learned something from you, Mr. Nicholas. Once again, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. Stay tuned for our next video interview. Until then, take care and stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.